Alrighty. Okay. Always setting up stream stuff because I'm always bad at this. Let's take a look here. If I were to do something like this, and then I did a little something like that. Untitled? I guess that works. Alrighty. Dang it all. Heading. What? Turn into heading. Alrighty. What is this book? Doesn't copy that over. Ridiculous, I say. Okay, if I do this. And then, look at that. Strixhaven book review. Alrighty. What is this book? Always like making stuff. That looks goodish, right? That looks good-ish. Okay. So I can. Okay. Yeah. So, what are the plot points I wanted to hit here? So, what is this book? How are the player options? 3 being how is the adventure? I'm sure that's a big one a lot of people want to look into. 4 monsters and how are the monsters and items? How are the monsters and items? Because some people buy these books and they just purely take stuff from it and don't do much else. So let's and then pretty much I think that's pretty much it. Alrighty. Hi all. Hey, how's it going? When does Totally Not Voldemort make an appearance? Totally Not Voldemort makes an appearance basically in the second air quote year of the adventure. Well, I say year. Like basically there is years to this the adventure. The Totally Not Voldemort is a frog dude named, oh my god, why am I blanking on his name? I've known it for so long. Not Morgorts, it's a frog. He's a frog dude. What's his name? Murgaxer. Is there an enunciation table in this? A lot of the recent 5e books have had enunciation tables, but I don't believe this one does, surprisingly. I don't recall seeing that. So I'll just go with Murgaxer. So he makes an appearance basically later on in the adventure, and of course in D&D you always have to have it where if the villain is in the game, then if they are there in person, then of course the players could beat them up. So they actually have this really cute encounter where basically your players find out who's poisoning the school, and then they go to confront him, and then all of a sudden they see an illusion of of Murgaxer, and then once your players finally go to try to beat him up, it turns out he's not actually there, and then your players fight an elemental in instead. I hear there's exam mechanics. It sounds actually really fun. So yeah, so basically what I strongly recommend all, game systems have is like basically some sort of system. So what the system is in particular is there's an exam system where you study and then you take the exam. So how the study mechanic works is you declare how you're studying. Okay, I'm going to study, by writing stuff down. I'm going to memorize stuff. Or, I'm going to study with a group. Or I'm going to study at the last minute. Or I'm just not even going to bother studying. And then the studying affects your test. And then when you go to take the exam, then depending on what you did before, you get a different roll. And if you roll bad, then of course you fail the test. But if you succeed, then you pass with flying colors. It's always funny when it comes to our role-playing games because we have to differentiate between rolling and doing. Because, of course, when it comes to a school, you could theoretically sit there and say, hey, you don't need to bother rolling a dice. I'm going to actually hand you guys a test. You could theoretically do that if you really wanted to. And I know for a fact people are going to be making tests for these games, and maybe you can do those instead of quizzes, or instead of rolls. But, just rolling for it's a really simple way to go about it. I strongly advocate for pronunciation tables. Absolutely. One thing to consider, though, is while, yes, some things should absolutely, be consistent, there's also the fact that in reality, people get, pronunciations wrong. So it also makes sense that in, this world, whatever world you're playing in, it makes sense that people are going to mispronunciate things all the time. Maybe one person's always very consistent with how they say their name, and then maybe other people are, like, oh, hey, there's so-and-so, but they say it differently. I think it's perfectly reasonable. Some of my finals this term really do seem like a roll of the dice. Very realistic. That is the unfortunate nature of our education system, isn't it? Also, I just realized I'm not wearing my blue light glasses. I was letting the blue lights in. How could I do that? So yeah, there's a cute little study mechanic, and I definitely appreciate it because basically how it comes down to is when you're going for the adventure, you basically have moments where you go off on a little adventure, and then you take a quiz, or you study for the quiz, and then you do that, and you kind of repeat process. I'll be getting into the adventure in a little bit, though. Took art history class at the same time as archaeology class and heard the term steel pronounced like 5 different ways. Steel, stele, 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 maybe? I'm trying to think of how many ways you could actually go about saying stele. Steel, stel. Maybe stel. Maybe just stel. A stel. Stella. Stella. Alrighty, first things first, what is this book? Strixhaven, A Curriculum of Chaos is, first and foremost, a adventure setting book that details out the location of Strixhaven, the school in the Magic the Gathering setting. Mind you, Magic the Gathering is not one monolithic setting. There's a whole bunch of different settings in Magic the Gathering. Strixhaven's just one of the many. There's been sets about it and a whole bunch of cards about it. Really cool stuff. But the interesting thing is, compared to the other adventure setting books, this one has a full-blown adventure versus all the other ones have only had tiny little adventures. I think that Strixhaven is probably the better way to go about it, because with only a tiny little adventure, you don't really get a feel and sense for the world. But when you have a full-blown adventure, then you can absolutely take, in what in essence is this adventure. And Strixhaven, of course, is just a magical school, and everyone's going to compare it to Harry Potter because, of course, they are. But that's just the nature of it. It's a magical school, except instead of it being high school, or I guess middle school to high school, it's college, which I think is a lot better because when you're dealing with adults, you can deal with a lot more adult themes versus when you're dealing with kids, you have to stick with kid themes. So I think the adult setting is a little bit better there. In addition to there being this massive adventure setting, there is also a whole bunch of monsters and magical items, and that's usually what a lot of people pluck from whenever they look at any of these books. They look at the new bestiary, they look at the new magical items, and simply take that and just don't do anything else with the rest of the book. Now, how are the player options? So the player options have been some of the biggest contention I've seen on both my channel and in the D&D community as of late. So the Owlin is a new player race, which is essentially just owly human. Not really too much special going on there. Pretty much just they can see a little better and they can glide a little bit, descending down or whatever. Is what it is. But the Owlin's perfectly fine and perfectly thematic. Now, the real thing, the real stir here in the community is the spells, and I guess to an extent the backgrounds. Going on the backgrounds were entirely drawn up with the idea that you pretty much only use the backgrounds for this adventure. The backgrounds essentially give you extra features that normally most backgrounds don't give you. So in essence, you could say that the backgrounds are overpowered if you compare them to, of course, the regular backgrounds. The backgrounds haven't been the real contention in the community. It's been the spells, and in particular, it has been one spell, Silvery Barbs, which is a gnarly spell. It is a first level spell that you can use a reaction to cause someone to have essentially disadvantage on their roll, but it's better than disadvantage, because if they already have disadvantage, you can still make them re-roll and use the worst roll. And in addition to that, you also get to give advantage to one of your friends or yourself. Very powerful, massive spell. I've gotten a lot of flack for it. I've seen a lot of people posting up there disdain for this spell. And that spell in particular is the one that's causing a lot of issues. There's actually a bunch of other spells here. I'll go ahead and rattle off some. But the spells basically get overshadowed by their compatriot there. Another fun spell is Borrow Knowledge, a second level spell. You draw a knowledge from spirits of the past. Choose one skill in which you lack proficiency. For the spell's duration, which is 1 hour, you have proficiency in the chosen skill. The spell ends early if you cast it again. So just a very quick, hey, I got a cramp for something. I'll go ahead and be proficient in something for an hour. I think that's a perfectly fine and fair spell. We also have good old Wither and Bloom. You invoke both death and life upon a 10-foot radius around you. Each creature of your choice in the area must make a Constitution saving throw, taking 2d6 necrotic damage on a failed save or half as much on a success. Now magical vegetation in the area withers. In addition, one creature of your choice in that area can spend and roll one of its unspent hit dice and regain a number of hit points equal to the roll plus your spellcasting ability modifier. Once again, I think it's a very fun, thematic, unique spell. And I think it's perfectly fine to adapt to anything else. And the other spell, I guess, coming out of this, Or like, how many spells are there? There's 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 spells that come out of this book. We have Vortex Warp. You magically twist space around another creature you can see within range, which is 90 feet. The target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw. The target can choose to fail. Or the target is teleported to an unoccupied space of your choice that you can see within range. The chosen space must be on a surface or in a liquid that can support the target without the target having to squeeze. So that is not just a straight up, you can't put someone over a cliff and then they just fall Looney Tunes style. No. This is a spell which basically can warp someone within a distance, another cute, unique spell. Kinetic Jaunt, a 2nd level spell here. 2nd level bonus action, cast concentration. You magically empower your movement with dance. Your walking speed increases by 10 feet. You don't provoke opportunity attacks. You can move through the space of another creature, and it doesn't count as difficult terrain. If you end your turn in another creature's space, you are shunted to the last unoccupied space you occupied and take 1d8 force damage. Once again, I think that's a perfectly fine, fair, and fun spell. It's just the matter of the silvery barb spell was just not well appreciated by the community. I see a lot of people already just saying that they're going to ban it. I see people, giving their takes on how they're going to change it. But my personal opinion to make it not as OP is to either one, make it a magical item that has an X number of charges, make it a 2nd level or 3rd level spell, make it a material component that has a cost to it. Maybe split the spell in 2. I've suggested a number of things to make it not as OP in the game. But yeah, that is for the player options. So how are the player options? I think that overall they're good, except for one, which is really, really bad for a lot of people. Alrighty. Anyone have any burning questions about anything in the book? Does anyone have any burning desires, questions, knowledge on the know-how? Because I have the book and I'm willing to share. If not, I can just move on to how's the adventure. Hiya, monkey. Monkey. So, how is the adventure? So, when it comes to 5th edition modules, for me personally, I love to dissect adventures into 3 categories. It is either a sandbox, where it is an open world and you can do anything at any time in any sequence and it doesn't matter. It is a railroad in the sense that you must go to point A and then eventually go to point B. But the difference is that from point A to point B, you can choose tracks 1, 2, 3, or 4, or you can choose to make your own track. And then the 3rd style play is a roller coaster. So a roller coaster is you're going from point A to point B, but there is no changing of the tracks. I would, and of course in 5e modules, the majority of them are, of course, for the most part, railroads. Because they definitely, require that your players go here and do that. Although some of them do have sandboxing nature elements to them, for sure. Maybe large portions of it are sandboxing, you can do anything at any time. But then usually it does devolve down into being a railroad, which is, I think, perfectly fine. Because I think a lot of people actually need a railroaded style of adventure. But some adventures, and I would say including this one, is a roller coaster style of adventure. You show up and you're going to be doing a thing. You show up and you're definitely going to this next area. There really isn't that much sequence breaking. There really isn't that much trying to cut the line. There really isn't much nuance in basically, affecting the future. Basically, you're showing up to an adventure to play the game. I think to compare this adventure, you would compare it to the good old-fashioned Adventures League content, which, once again, is not discouraging. It is not, berating or anything. I truly do think that roller coaster style adventures are perfectly fine, for the people that enjoy that style of play. If you want to show up to an adventure to have a fun time, show up to the session knowing that it's going to be a little adventure, then hey, props. But I know that this adventure is not going to be for everybody. This adventure does not appeal to the sandboxy style of people. This adventure does not appeal to the railroaded style people that want to create their own paths. This is pretty much a roller coaster. I know, once again, for a fact, that a lot of people are going to dissect this adventure and they're going to make it a roller coaster, or maybe they even make it a rail. I always get this confused. They're either going to make it a railroad or they're going to make it a full-blown sandbox. But I'm here to tell you that the adventure, purely as written, is definitely a roller coaster where you sit down, shut up, and have a good time. So in my eyes, how is the adventure? I think the adventure is great, especially if you are running for younger people that don't want to get too crazy and weird and wild. Or it doesn't even need to be younger people. It just can be anybody that doesn't want to try and, force the narrative. The DMs bring the adventure to you. You're not going to the adventure. You pick out a chair yet? No, I'm too poor for that. And it's not unrelated because I'm always sitting on the ground. I'm still too poor. That being said, though, I am working on my good old No Funds Guide to Everything, and hopefully if that gets enough revenue, maybe I will be able to upgrade to sitting in a chair versus sitting on the ground. Which adventure are you most excited for? So basically, for those of you, so the adventure itself is essentially broken down into 4 segments, like 4 years essentially. And what I'll say is, from the parts of it, let me go ahead and give you like a brief description of what's going on in each one here. So in chapter 3, we have School is in Session. This is your players showing up to the school for the first time. This is presumably where they meet each other. This is them getting used to the school. This is them meeting all their new friends. This is them meeting all the stuff, getting acclimated to the school. And the adventure found here is called Campus Kerfuffle. And this one is all about basically just getting into a whole bunch of weird hijinks around the school. And this is your level 1 through 4 adventure, so you're not doing anything too crazy. You're basically just, meandering about the place and getting into weird little encounters. Chapter 4 here is we have Hunt for Mage Tower. And this one is dealing with mascots. And you're basically showing up to the next one. And this one has a whole bunch of fun things like dealing with a game. Basically, it's totally not Quidditch, but it's a game. So that one's got a lot of fun, unique things to it. And of course, as always, like a Harry Potter adventure, the games get interrupted by some magical hijinks. We have the Magister's Masquerade, and this one is dealing with going to a party and being all swanky, and then a whole bunch of more dubious things going on. And the last part of the adventure, Reckoning in Ruins. Oh, and mind you, in the Magister's Masquerade, basically, you're dealing with the villains basically revealing themselves somewhat in their schemes. And then in Chapter 6 here, we have Reckoning in Ruins, and this is where you're finally going to the bayou to stop the evil frog mage that's causing a ruckus. Me personally, of all these 4 portions of the adventure, I think the second portion of the adventure is probably going to be my most favorite to run, because with the first portion, it's all about the discovery of what they're figuring out. The second portion of the adventure is them, getting acclimated to what's at hand, but then also still some weird things going on. So that is that's probably going to be my most favorite to run. On the 4 adventures, are they able to be played back-to-back? Yes, in fact, it is encouraged that they be played back-to-back. Once again, they wrote it in the essence of Adventures League style, where they knew that people were not going to be running it wholesale. So what they do is at the end of the chapter, they'll say, hey, if you're running this as a full-blown campaign, then introduce these elements. But if you're not running it as a wholesale adventure, then run it this other way. because there is an overarching villain for the entire process here. But if you are not running this as a full-blown adventure, then there's no need to hint at some villain that's never going to pop up in your games, right? So, yes, the book is easily able to be played, back to back, no issue. Though I would say, in between adventures, maybe you have some sort of other fun downtime activities. Silvery Barb's going to make Magic Missile rise in greatness if people start dropping shield for it. So what I'll say is, Magic Missile is one of the most iconic spells in all of D&D. I would argue that Magic Missile is next to Fireball. I'd say it's below Fireball in iconicness. But the issue is that Magic Missile was fan-frickin-tastic in old school game systems because people had less health, and it was typically harder to hit people. When you look at the... Oh my god, why am I blanking on the term? It's the term where basically basically people are more likely to hit people, and people have more health accordingly. I'm totally blanking on the term for that, though. Bounded accuracy. Because of the bounded accuracy of D&D, unfortunately, Magic Missile has fallen off because, it's like, oh yeah, I could do 3d4 plus 3 points of damage to someone, or I could just do, 3d8 points of damage to someone with another spell, which is unfortunate. I think Magic Missile has its place, and I think it's a very special spell, and I think it's very iconic. It's very powerful. I think it should be powerful, but unfortunately, in 5e, Magic Missile has not shown through. It has not gotten its fair dues. Though I will say, if you're running a game where dropping down to 0 HP is a much bigger deal, maybe not necessarily death on 0, but maybe if it is like you suffer exhaustion, or maybe you suffer a penalty to your stats, or whatever it is, then Magic Missile is definitely better. And Magic Missile is especially good if you are running a game where, you have death saving throws and the DM says, oh, I hit you with 3 Magic Missiles, and that's 3 hits. You're automatically dead. But I don't think most people run DD or 5e like that. Got my pre-order in today. First thing I noticed was the Biblioplex map, the Hall of Oracles area. On the map, it is like 40 by 50 feet, and the illustration is like 1,000 feet and freaking huge. Yes. Magic. It's not always a perfect 1-to-1 ratio when it comes to different artists working on things and making maps for all these things. Sometimes some things get lost in translation. Is what it is. Ratio. No, I was thinking of bounded accuracy was the word. I've heard a bit about that new broken spell. Any other cool, creative new spells? Yes. So the other fun spells are actually fun and are not broken. That is why you haven't heard anyone talking about them, because they're not broken. Because I am sadly in the firm belief that when it comes to new features, unless it's busted OP, broken, overpowered nonsense, people aren't going to make a fuss about it. So one of my most favorite, which I think is very thematic for this whole module and this adventure, is Borrowed Knowledge. 2nd level divination, casting time 1 action, duration 1 hour. You draw on knowledge from spirits of the past. Choose one skill in which you lack proficiency. For the spell's duration, you have proficiency in the chosen skill. The spell ends early if you cast it again. So that one's really, I think, thematic for like, oh man, I gotta study for a test. You know what, screw it, I'm gonna cast a spell. Kind of thing. Or if you know that there's some sort of like skill challenge coming up, or maybe if maybe if it's like, oh, maybe these people are like always grappling us. If I'm going to increase my athletics or my acrobatics, I think that's a really fun spell for that. Another one being Wither and Bloom, 2nd level necromancy, casting time 1 action, range 60 feet. You invoke both death and life upon a 10-foot radius sphere. Each creature of your choice in that area must make a Constitution saving throw, or take 2d6 necrotic damage on a failed save, or half as much on a success. In addition, one creature of your choice in that area can spend and roll one of its unspent hit die, and regain a number of hit points equal to the roll, plus your spellcasting ability modifier. So I think that's just a really fun, thematic spell. The thing to consider is this is a Magic the Gathering system. This is our setting. This is a Magic the Gathering essentially product. But I promise you, the Magic the Gathering doesn't bleed through. Unless you are a Magic nerd and you heavily emphasize the fact that it's 5 schools and it's 5 colors being represented here, unless you just, beat it over the head that it's 5, then people aren't going to pick up on the fact that it's Magic. Which is a good thing, because if you're not a Magic nerd, then trying to, introduce them to this isn't going to, work out well. Or trying to introduce a Magic setting isn't going to work well. Just stick with it being the fantasy that you know. Cool spell. Love the options. Absolutely. Alrighty. I just got added in a Discord somewhere. Why was I added? Why? Okay, that's why. How would you rate this book compared to the other settings book? I've never bought a setting book and also have never played Magic. So what I'll say is, once again, a very good thing. If you are not a Magic nerd, then this book is actually perfectly fine. Fair and dandy. I would say that comparing it to the other setting books, we have Ravnica. Am I blanking on any of the settings books? Ravnica, Theros, Eberron, Wildmount. I don't think I'm missing any. What I will say is, yes, this is actually this is one of the better ones, is what I would say, because specifically looking at the other ones, Ravnica and Theros, for the Magic the Gathering settings, those ones, the entire book is just detailing out this world. And if you don't have any interest in that world, then those books are worthless. This, however, this is a setting book in essence, but you don't have to worry about the setting. You can just run it purely for the adventure. And that's the end of story. So I would rate this higher, is what I would say. Especially if you're not a Magic nerd. Ahoy! What be your favorite school to participate as a player? I personally... fun fact, BT Dubs, if you plan on running this adventure, go to the link down below and join the Strixhaven Curriculum of Chaos Discord. I am actually, funnily enough, the admin of that Discord. For those of you that don't know, if you don't somehow know this, there is Discords for literally every single one of the 5e modules. So if you join those, you can link up with hundreds of other DMs that are running these adventures just like you, and you can pluck from them all their knowledge and all their wealth of information. Join those Discords. If you plan on joining, if you plan on running Strixhaven, then join this Discord. What I would say is, me personally, so fun fact, I am not exactly a big Magic nerd. I do play Arena, which is the free version of the game. I personally would probably be a... That's a tough one. Would I be a... I'd probably either be a... That's a... Man, what would I be? I might be a... I'm torn between Silverquill, Lorehold, and Quandrix, I think. Or Prismari. I'm not that much of a Witherbloom person. I'm not that much of a Quandrix person. So maybe Silverquill. Maybe I'd be a Silverquill kind of person. The location fleshed out. Is the location fleshed out more or less than Candlekeep was fleshed out? I would say it's more fleshed out than Candlekeep. I distinctly remember in Candlekeep, if I had it on me, I believe the setting of Candlekeep itself was a maximum of like 10 pages. This one has a lot more pages going on for fleshing out not only the school itself, the setting, but also the fact that the adventure also fleshes out the setting. So, yeah, I would say that. Van Richten is a setting book, right? Yeah, correct. So... Putting it up against Van Richten's, I think Van Richten's is a very strong one, but that's because I personally like small little adventure settings. And Van Richten's has a very good whole bunch of tiny little adventure settings. But me personally, if I were to recommend Van Richten's or Strixhaven to someone that was looking for a campaign setting, I'd probably lean towards Strixhaven, based purely on the fact that Van Richten's wasn't one campaign setting. It was a whole bunch of different campaign settings. And I don't know how many people that appeals to versus having just one, unanimous one. I had my monster use silvery barbs on my players last night. LOL, they weren't happy. Well, is what it is, right? What I'll say is, I mentioned this in my live stream yesterday, but there's already effects, features, traits, and abilities that monsters exude that essentially do what silvery barbs does. That already exists in the game. But now I know for a fact that a lot of people are going to, if they allow silvery barbs in their game, they're going to say, oh yeah, then the monsters can have silvery barb spell. Does that lead to antagonistic style of play? Is it an environment where everyone's just getting into an arm race against one another? Is it an environment where basically, because the players use one thing, the DM automatically has to use the other thing? I don't think that it needs to be that way, but once again, it comes down to your players. Talk to your players to see if this game is worth running. Talk to your not worth running. Talk to your players if this spell is worthwhile. Talk to your players if the spell adds to your game, or talk to your players if the spell takes away from the game. I know for a fact, based on all the comments I got, which I got quite a few on, that the spell does not lead to a better game, and that's fine. But just make sure that, everyone's on board. Because I think that there'd be a lot of players that look at the spell and be like, oh yeah, that's cool. So, take that what you will. Alrighty, so yeah, how's the adventure? I think the adventure's fine if you like a roller coaster style adventure. However, if you are looking for a sandbox, then this is not it. And lastly, number 4, how are the monsters and items? So the items, interesting enough, are actually in the player section, which, funnily enough, a lot of people have brought up the fact, not a lot of people, but it's been brought up that should magical items be in the players' eyesights? Should players know what magical items exist in the world? And I'm not talking about characters, I'm talking about players. Should players know what magical items exist? That is certainly a debate worth having and a discussion well worth having. I personally like magical items being magical to not only the characters but to the players. But I know a lot of people like having wish lists, and I know a lot of people like trying to compare the magical items to other magical items and this and that. So is what it is. The magical items are fun, unique, and flavorful. As people have noted, the bottle of boundless coffee. This metal bottle carries delicious warm coffee. Basically, each time you drink a coffee, roll D20. On a 1, the bottle refuses to dispense coffee for the next hour. If you pour coffee from the bottle rather than drinking it, the coffee vanishes the moment it leaves the bottle. So basically, it's just a decanter of endless coffee. Which I saw a lot of people are like, man, why can't I have that in the real world? So I would say that the magical items are a lot of fun. When it comes to the monsters are completely all over the place in regards of their design, in regards of their CR, in regards of their themes, in regards of their usability outside of this adventure. So let me go over why that would be. So per example being, we have here an art elemental mascot. It's a quarter challenge rating. This thing's pretty dookie. It's not going to be hurting your players at all. It does 2d4 plus 1 damage on a +3 to hit for its joyful flare. Not that big of a deal. But then all of a sudden we get Belladros Witherbloom, a CR24 dragon, which is going to knock people out of the park through its terrible miasma. This thing has a miasma flow, which is... During this movement, she can move through the creature and objects as if they were difficult terrain. If she moves through a creature, it must succeed a DC 23 Constitution saving throw or become poisoned until the end of the turn. If Beldros ends this move inside an object, she takes 1d10 force damage. So what that means, poison is a extremely damning effect for characters. If any character is poisoned, they have disadvantage on pretty much everything. And if your players are rolling disadvantage on all their attack rolls, they're kind of screwed. Her breath weapon attack is a DC 23 con saving throw, and they take 6d12 necrotic damage and 6d12 poison damage on a failed save. Pretty strong. So the monsters are very flavorful for this setting. That being said, though, there is easily some great conversions you can do to have them fit into a regular campaign outside of Strixhaven. So the monsters, I would give this a thumbs up. This is a fun bestiary that ranges from low CR all the way to high CRs. And, once again, I think they're very flavorful, and that is what I want out of monsters. I don't want monsters that say, does 2 attacks. I want monsters that feel like they have a purpose. I want monsters that have unique actions and traits and features, because we've all gone up against the wolves. We've all gone up against the orcs. Let's go up against the Blood Mage. Let's go up against the Relic Sloth. Let's go up against the Ruin Grinder. Let's go up against the Prismari Professor of Perfection here. That's what I would say. So, just to recap, what is this book? It's an adventure setting, but a huge emphasis on the adventure. How are the player options? Good, except one spell has everyone in a flurry, which I completely agree and understand with. I understand with it. I just don't personally, agree with the amount of outrage it is getting. How is the adventure? The adventure is fine if you like a roller coaster style adventure. It is not a railroaded adventure. It is not a sandbox adventure. It is on track, no deviating. You have one way to go, and that's forward go. How are the monsters and items? Monsters are fun, and the items are fun. Which classes would you recommend for a new Owlin character? So, to emphasize what Owlin give you here as part of those player options. Owlin, creature type, you're humanoid, you are medium or small. You choose the size when you select the race, which is very interesting. I don't believe there's, in fact, there has not been any other race that lets you choose between small or medium. You basically are one or the other. Your walking speed is 30 feet, and that is even if you are small. So you could be a small creature with 30 feet of movement. You have dark vision up to 120 feet. You have flight. Thanks to your wings, you have a flying speed equal to your walking speed. However, you can't use this flying speed if you're wearing medium or heavy armor. And silent feathers. You are proficient in stealth skill. So due to the nature of the fact that if you're wearing medium or heavy armor, your flying is negated. If you want flying, then I would strongly, an easy, strong pick for the Owlin is Rogue. That is easily the number one pick there, because you automatically get the proficiency in the stealth there. You get dark vision up to 120 feet, and you can fly while still wearing leather armor. Very, very strong pick for the Owlin Rogue combo there. But I will say, just due to the nature of it being also a flying, so long as you are wearing light armor, the spellcasters that aren't donning heavy armor, such as sorcerer, such as warlock, such as wizard, druid, very strong options there. Basically, the Owlin is very, very versatile. If you are, if you're willing to not fly, then of course the martial classes are perfectly fine. But of course, if you want to be a martial class, then the Owlin just doesn't really have any synergies with it, is what I would say. But those dragons are meant to be RP moments, right? Aren't they the founders of each school? Yes. Basically, each of the dragons are the 5 representing figureheads of each school, and are definitely not meant to be fought, because this adventure extends all the way to level 10. And so even at level 10, you are not going up against CR24 dragons. It's not going to happen. That being said, though, of course, I see those. I know for a fact people are going to rip those dragons out of this adventure, and they're going to use them for other adventures because they're really cool. And I know I'm going to be using them for other adventures. I'm going to rename them, of course, but I always like a good dragon. What is the difference between railroad and roller coaster style of play? So I need to make a video on this. But basically, what I track all tabletop role-playing games down to is 3 modes of play. 1, the sandbox. The sandbox is where it is a free open world where you can go anywhere, do anything at any time, because there's not really that much mounting pressure to do any one thing. So basically, it's just a leisurely choose your own adventure style adventure. Next, we have the railroad. The railroad is you are on an adventure. You are dead set on an adventure, and you are at point A, and you need to get to point B, and then you need to get to point C. But where the railroad shines is that you get to choose the tracks. You can choose going from point A to point B. You can choose the first track. You can choose the second track. You can choose the third track. Maybe you make your own track, and maybe your own track, sends you winding, twisting, and railing. But no matter what, whatever track you choose, it is going to get you to point B, and then eventually to point C. And maybe instead of going to point B, maybe you can just go from point A to point C. But regardless, you are moving forward in this one adventure. A roller coaster style of adventure is no changing of the tracks. You are at point A, you are going to point B, you are on one track. That's that end of story. The best way to think of a roller coaster style adventure would be a lot of one-shots. A lot of one-shots have us where we simply, as DMs, say, hey, your players show up to this area, or your characters show up to this area, they do this. Because that is just what is needed for the adventure to run. Roller coaster style adventure is not a derogatory term at all. In fact, I think roller coaster style adventures fit extremely well for people that do not want to have to make decisions, for people that do not want to have to wrestle with the moral quandaries of choosing between all these various things. Roller coaster style adventures are great for people that want to sit down and play an adventure. And that's perfectly fine. Another great example of roller coaster style adventures would be Adventures League content. Adventures League content, you are not changing the overall outcome of the adventure. You are definitely going to be playing in the same adventure. Yes, you get to choose what you do in combat, of course, and maybe you get to decide how horribly you mess up on a puzzle. But you're still doing these things. You're guaranteed to be doing these things. Versus in a railroaded style adventure, maybe instead of getting into that combat, maybe instead you sort of circumnavigate the whole affair, as it were. Okay. So, yeah, that is, keep on forgetting, I got this book in my lap, I keep on wanting to look at it. So this book is, once again, not going to be for everybody. So, a while ago, right as 5th edition was first starting, I think their initial idea was that they're going to make every book for everybody. But then eventually what ends up happening is they are making so many books now, there's no way that they're going to appeal to everyone, and that's fine. In fact, I would go so far as to say I don't want a book that appeals to everyone. Because a book that appeals to everyone is probably going to mean that it's watered down. I want a book that focuses on something and focuses on it strong. And what that does mean is that it's going to be polarizing. It means that some people are going to like it and some people are not going to like it. This book I feel like it's going to be polarizing. It's an adventure setting and a roller coaster style adventure. That is not going to appeal to everybody. That's fine. But I like the fact that it does what it does well. I think the NPCs the book gives you would be fun to play. Also, I love the familiars they offer you per school. Yes, so another large aspect of this adventure is that there is relationships between your characters and the NPCs, and they are more detailed out. So, naturally, unless you are running a full-blown, you're always in a dungeon and never interact with any NPC ever, more often than not, whenever we run in games, your players get latched on to certain NPCs. This book takes it a step further and fully details out the system on how your players interact with these NPCs. There is a huge, beautiful cast of characters that your players will get to know, love, and maybe even hate, or maybe even rival, or whatever. And the really fun thing about them is they're doing their own thing. You know, they have their own lives, they're working their own jobs, they're in their own respective schools, and also very importantly is, depending on your players' interactions with these characters, they'll get some boons and they'll get some banes. If they hang out with the one jock guy, then yeah, that's cool. You get to hang out with the jocks, but maybe the nerds don't like you. Oh, hey, you hang out with the flirty person, you know, oh, you get to know everybody, but then some people may be talking behind your back. I really like that aspect. I really like that it really does showcase off, you know, what happens with these relationships. It's obviously a big gamey, yes, and there is the question of should relationships be gamey, yes or no. But I personally would rather have the gaminess there, and then you can choose to strip it away as much as you want, versus the gaminess not being there, and then you having to add, you know, whatever it is you need to have. Hey, no fun. It's Kitty from the Discord. I recognize your little picture there, and your name. Good to see you, man. Have you been DMing anything lately? I've been enjoying your shorts. You've been enjoying my shorts. What about my pants? You are free to immediately leave this after hearing that terrible joke. So I have been DMing lately, yes. I've been DMing good old Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I've been DMing some OSR stuff. I'm going to be DMing some open games for the community. I'll be making posts about that. I'm actually going to be running old school Ravenloft using old school rules, so that'll be a ton of fun. And thank you for enjoying the shorts. I am basically doing a whole bunch of series on the books right now. I'm going to be doing the books in 1 minute. And after that, I'll be doing some more fun things like making encounters in 1 minute, character concepts in 1 minute. I've got a whole bunch of fun things in store for my shorts, so don't you worry about that. Alrighty. Yeah, so all in all, this book has been a good time. I would say Strixhaven. So obviously, most people have not gotten Strixhaven to the table yet because it only just came out today. But Strixhaven I think is definitely going to fit well with the people that want it, and unfortunately is not going to be for everybody. I'm very much looking forward to seeing the books in 1 minute shorts. Love the last two. Thank you. I'm trying to basically, because I talked to Steely, and Steely's like, oh yeah, 1 minute's you got so much time to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. But I'm unfortunately take too long, and I don't have enough time to talk about what I want to talk about in 1 minute. So these shorts are actually a really great way for me to challenge myself. And I'm like sitting there like, okay, what is the important part of the adventure I need to talk about? I can't sit there and talk about, the fun little goblin encounter on page 22, right? I'm going to actually talk about the fine points of the adventure. Hey man, I just want to say thank you for covering Witchlight. Thank you for watching my coverage of Witchlight. I have not abandoned the series. I am literally going to be releasing the what do you call it thing? The Palace of Art's Desire video, I believe tomorrow or in 2 days. It's just that it takes forever for me to put out these videos because I've been working on a bunch of other things. I've been writing a whole bunch. I've been making a bunch of different videos. So don't you worry, more Witchlight coverage is coming your way. Ravenloft seems cool. I'm in a Domains of Dread game Saturdays, and it's awesome. Love darker themes. What domain of Dread are you currently occupied in? I would love to hear it. It was super helpful. Hope to see you cover other campaigns in equal detail. I've only covered 6 of the 5e modules. I've covered Tomb of Annihilation, Rime of the Frost Maiden, Curse of Strahd. Oh my god. Candlekeep Mysteries, Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and Wild Beyond the Witchlight. So I've only covered 6 modules, and Mind you, my channel's been going on for a year and change now, and I've only covered 6 modules. I have an idea on how I'm going to catch up on and basically try to put out more videos, but it will take a little bit of time. But I have covered others, though I will say, unfortunately, my Tomb of Annihilation series was done before I was confident in front of the camera, and when I also had a terrible audio quality. So I do plan on going back to Tomb of Annihilation to fix it up, because unfortunately it is a blemish on my channel. Excited for the Pals video because my eyes refuse to take in that chapter. It's a big chapter to take in. I'm not gonna lie. It's a lot. Which is really funny because if you compare the Palace of Heart's Desires to the other portions of the adventure, you know, I feel like it's a very free form, you know, free flowing style. But then all of a sudden you go to the Palace of Heart's Desire and it's like a brick. There's a lot to it. We're in the lands of Falkovnia. My character has the Symbiote Dark Gift, and so far it's been super cool. Really dark and interesting. We've had to make some very hard choices. Well, I mean, if you're making, you know, not hard choices, are you playing in Falkovnia? That's cool to hear. I definitely want to do more with the domains of dread. It's funny because I put out literally within I think a week or two of Van Richten's Guide to Everything coming out, I put out a supplement called The Domains of Dreadful Delight, which is basically a Candyland themed domain of dread. But this was before we found out that apparently there's domains of delight in the 5e universe now. So I thought it was really funny that I came out with a product that's basically a mishmash of the two before before they actually came out. Can't rush art, brother. Don't stress it. I mean, you can rush art. It's just not going to come out pretty. And the very important thing is beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Much like how I just said, Tomb of Annihilation series is I think a blemish on my channel. Funnily enough, my most watched video on my channel is one of my Tomb of Annihilation videos. So, I don't decide what is good. Other people decide what is good. But I do hear you. I'm not going to break my back. I'm not going to work 12-hour days just to try and put out module guides. I'm not going to do that. What? That's so cool. I love that. Oh yeah, my Candyland Domain of Dread. Let me see if I can pull that up here. I need to pull it up on something else here. DM's Guild. Can I even find my own product on the DM's Guild? I don't know. How do I find... Unfortunately, DM's Guild does not have a good a good UI system, and it's hard to find stuff sometimes. How do I find my own frickin' product? How do I do it? Here we go. Did that come up on stream at all? Oh. Confectionia, domain of dreadful delights. I have to go, but thank you for the stream and your insight about the book. Thank you, no problem. So Confectionia is basically just a Candyland domain of dread with Molasses Mines, Gumball Grotto, the Marshmallow Mountain, Cotton Candy Coast, Candy Apple Caravans. The evil lord of the land is Lord Jawbreaker, and you know, I've got a whole bunch of things on running adventures in the domain of Dreadful Delights. I personally thought it was pretty cute, and my tagline I think was not everything. Yeah, not everything is gumdrops and lollipops. Yep. So that was my makings there. There's something really awesome about the juxtaposition of the sweet candy aesthetic and the darker themes of DoD. Yeah. Oh man, I want to go to Marshmallow Mountain. Sounds like a fun time, right? I remember I got in my head that I was like, okay, I'm gonna write at the bare minimum one domain of Dread, like right as the book comes out. And I had a whole bunch. In fact, if I had my phone, I wrote down a whole bunch of different ones I plan on doing in the future at some point. I'm going to write a Were-Rat Thug domain of Dread, a Cloudspire domain of Dread, a Mechanical Wizard of Oz domain of Dread, a Sci-Fi Horror domain of Dread, a Dreamland domain of Dread, Icy Viking domain of Dread, and those are the ones I had notes on. But I'm thinking that if I do write any more of those will be wrapped up in my good old-fashioned No Funds Guide to Everything. Alrighty, I've been going on for 1 hour. I think I'll go on for another... did you create any homebrew dark gifts? No, I didn't, though I totally can and should. I probably should. Maybe I'll update that for my confectioner there. Microsoft players would absolutely love this. That's good to hear. Yeah, if for those of you that didn't watch my my thing the other day, what did I do here? I am putting out a basically a magazine, a monthly zine, and it's gonna come with a whole bunch of fun grab bag things for your games. The first article is coming out next month, and it's all covering villages, and it's coming out with new subclasses, breast variants, random tables, morale system, articles on why we run the game, new feats, new spells, new magic items, new monsters, new adventure. So I know for a fact that I'll definitely be covering various themes, and one of the themes, of course, is going to be horror, so I'll definitely do some fun things that you can easily throw into a Curse of Straw game. I know I'll be doing themes, that are whimsical in nature. Absolutely. What's your favorite book campaign so far that you've run yourself? Tomb of Annihilation. Tomb of Annihilation has been my most favorite 5e module because it fits 5e's theme well of high pulpy action adventure. I love the setting of a jungle filled with undead, dinosaurs, and pirates. Oh my! I love the port town of Nyanzaru and all of the luxuries therein. I love the end game is just absolutely harrowing and awesome. I think it's a complete package, and I think Tomb of Annihilation is the best 5e module. Oh, man. I can't wait to run Strixhaven, though. I'll be running Strixhaven fairly soon, and I actually will be running Strixhaven with a wizard-only group. No other classes allowed. Everyone has to be a wizard. I don't know much about it, but I do know it's very, very hard. Yes. So basically, if you run Tomb of Annihilation purely as written, TPKs will happen. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you run Tomb of Annihilation purely 100% as written, PCs will die. That's the end of story. Aren't player deaths very expected in that campaign? 100% as written. Absolutely. Let me put it to you this way. There is the likelihood that at level 1 you could go up against a T-Rex. That is a technical possibility. So it was not written with PC's livelihoods in mind. Tomb of Annihilation is essentially 3 old school adventures that were wrapped up into one. It is 3 old school adventures called Isle of Dread, Dwellers of the Forbidden City, and Tomb of Horrors, all wrapped up into one awesome adventure. That being said, purely as written, yes, PCs are going to die. But if you are a DM, then for sure you can probably change things up to make it so PCs don't die. My party just got TPK'd in the House of Lament. Oof. Oof. You win some, you lose some. I think it's very important and healthy in the gaming community to have TPKs. And I don't say that to be malicious. I do not say that because I'm a power-hungry, want-to-kill PCs DM. No. I say that because if you go your whole campaign without ever having a PC die or having a TPK, then you start to feel as if the game is not challenging in a sense. You start to feel like the game is taking it easy on you. But if you know for a fact that there is the potential for loss, the potential for sorrow, the potential for defeat, then you start to understand the gravity of the situation. You begin to appreciate everything that much more. A big old T-Rex. Holy shit. T-Rex at level 1. This is my idea of fun. Absolutely. Absolutely. And mind you, there's no running away from a T-Rex. Something fun to note is in old school games, in old school systems, I should say, of D&D, there was actual rules on running away from monsters. And I'm not talking about the chase rules in D&D because those chase rules are awful. I'm talking about there was legitimate rules on running away from baddies. There is, beyond just the chase rules, which are terrible and nobody ever uses, there isn't any rules on running away from monsters. There isn't any rules on, how much the monsters try to go after you. I think that is something that is lost that should be, once again, recovered. Because, a perfect example being, if you were traipsing around a dungeon and you bumped into a bunch of orcs, and then the orcs are beating you up and you realize that you're going to lose. If you just try and run, the orcs are just going to run you down because the orcs are actually faster than most PCs. So what there should be is, or in the old school games, what you could do is you could drop loot. If you dropped loot, then it would give you an X% chance that the enemies would stop following you and just let you run. There isn't anything like that in this game. So for like the T-Rex would easily outrun anybody because the T-Rex has way higher movement. But the problem is the T-Rex is a nasty, filthy beast that doesn't actually care about gold. So instead, you'd have to drop some food. So then how much food would you have to drop in order for the T-Rex to stop chasing after you? That's something well worth looking into. Alrighty. Looking at other things. Wait, there's no running mechanics in 5e? There is. Essentially there's just the straight up rules of, you can use your movement. But there is the chase rules. However, I've talked to a lot of DMs, and I myself have used chase rules before because I actually like chases. But I don't know many people that actually have thought about using it or actually used it. I think that, when it comes to the big bad world that is D&D, there should be a verisimilitude in the world in the understanding that the world doesn't scale to your players. And that's another reason why I like TOA. Because in TOA, the world doesn't scale to your players. Your players are simply the level that they are. They'll bump into the T-Rex. If they bump into the T-Rex at level 1, they're screwed. But if they bump into the T-Rex at level, 9 or 10, then they're going to dunk in no issue. So for there to be that verisimilitude in the world, you need to have big monsters that are scary. But at the same time, if you bump into big monsters that are scary, you need to be able to survive the encounter. I think a lot of people kind of skip that process of the game and simply just run encounters that are always, beatable in a sense. Alrighty. If anybody has any burning questions about this book or anything else that's pressing or going on, feel free to ask. CJ, woo, caught the stream. How's it going? Quick recap. What is this book? Adventure setting, heavy emphasis on the adventure itself. How are the player options? Player options are fine except for one spell, Silvery Barbs, which a lot of people do not like. How is the adventure? The adventure is fine, fair, and, fun. Fine, fair, fun. If you are into roller coaster style adventures, meaning that your players get essentially no options, they simply show up to the adventure and they play it. And how are the monsters and items? The monsters and items are fun, unique, flavorful, and varied. Thinking back, what's an example of something your players did that really surprised you? Something that's really surprised me. That's a tough one. Mind you, I've had a lot of players and I've had a lot of surprises in my time of DMing. I've DM'd for a lot of people and I've DM'd quite a lot of games. Well, alright, so one time my players got into a fight with a Demi-Lich and I thought they were going to TPK. And what surprised me is that they were able to pull it out. If you come to play under me, you will understand that I am not a kind and forgiving DM. I will run the monster as the monster would be ran, and Demi-Liches would kill people. And when I ran that Demi-Lich, it was going to kill people, and it was using every little dirty trick in the book. And my party actually pulled it out. And surprising, it was an absolute clown fiesta, but they pulled it out. That surprised me. I get enough verisimilitude in my life. I can often do without it in my games. Fair enough. That's the important part of these games is we sit here to have fun. But the issue is that fun is subjective. Some people think that a game where, playing level 0 peasants going up against a whole bunch of monsters and getting wiped out is fun. Some people think that running a whole bunch of demigods that run around and, beat up on dragons, every other Tuesday. Some people think that's fun. D&D is not a monolithic experience. D&D is not a one-size-fits-all. And that's something very important that needs to be discussed in the community that I don't think is discussed enough. Is the fact that D&D means so many different things to so many different people that you can't simply say the blanket statement of, hey, let's play D&D, because some people, D&D is, dick wizards. For some people, D&D is, meat grinders. For some people, D&D is a roleplay, clown fiesta. Is what it is. What is all the controversy about the silvery spell? Is it a bad spell? I have not seen the book yet. So if you go to my channel, I did a whole video about the spell, and you can look in the comments there, and it gets pretty colorful. People are not a fan of the spell because it is a first level spell, and I will go ahead and read it to you and see if you pick up on why it is so reviled, why it's so hated. Silvery Barbs, first level spell, reaction that you can use if a creature you can see within 60 feet of you succeeds on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. You magically distract the creature. The triggering creature must re-roll the d20 and use the lower roll. So what that means is if someone rolls a saving throw, like the monster rolls a saving throw, you could say, hey, screw you, you have to re-roll it, and you have to use the lower roll. And that is actually worded in that disadvantage is actually, it can stack on disadvantage, which makes the spell better. It's absolutely insane. And mind you, that doesn't apply just to saving rolls, that is also applied to attack rolls and ability checks. So if the monster hits your friend, you can have them re-roll it. If the monster succeeds on a saving throw, you can have them re-roll it, etc., etc. But that is not the only part of it that makes it disgusting. In addition, you can choose a different creature you can see within range. You can choose yourself. The chosen creature has advantage on the next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, makes it within 1 minute. A creature can only be empowered by one use of the spell at a time. So, the reason why a lot of people do not like the spell is because it is a first level spell and thus it's accessible. People don't like it because it's a reaction and thus it does not eat up into your action economy. People don't like the spell because it is a two-pronged effect. It is both forcing someone to re-roll something, and it is both giving someone else advantage, or yourself advantage. Incredibly powerful spell. It's a reaction. It's a level 1 spell. Very, very strong package, all for that. And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people think that it's too overpowered. A lot of people think that it's going to ruin the flow of the game. A lot of people think that it is going to make people too OP. A lot of people think that it's going to make other people seem weak. And I fully get that. I understand it. I personally, I'm in the camp that if people think that it's going to enhance their fun at the table and everyone's on board, then I don't care. But it's clearly obvious that not everyone thinks that this is a fun spell. I'm definitely a scale to players DM, but I will try to scale to possibly deadly rather than probably definitely deadly. Absolutely. As you should, right? I've ran games where I've said, hey, players, I don't care about your characters. You could easily go into something where you're automatically dead and, there's nothing you can do about it. It leads to a different mindset of the game. It's an entirely different game. If you have a game where, deadliness is not only expected, but it's an inevitability, people are going to approach the game differently. And, for some people don't want that game. Thankfully for the game that I ran, that one, people were expecting it, and people loved overcoming the challenge. If a perfect example is I threw 4 T-Rexes at my party, and I told them, hey, the T-Rexes appear 50 feet away from you, and they charge you. And my players loved it because they got to overcome the challenge. Totally cool. I'll check that video out. Cool. What class is the spell available to? That I'm totally blanking on the top of my head. I know it's available to 3 off the top of my head. Spells. It's a first level enchantment spell. Silvery barbs. Bard, sorcerer, wizard. So naturally, so wizard makes sense because, it's a spell. And they have a lot of spells. Sorcerer because they copy off a wizard. And bard because I think this is a very fitting bard spell because it's a reaction, because it's helping out a friend, because it's distracting an enemy. I think it's very flavorful for being a bard spell. That is what classes it is available to. For those of you that don't know, I sit on the ground, and I've got to reposition all the time because sitting on the ground sucks. Sorcerer is a very interesting one. I think some people are questioning as well what you can do with sorcery points and this spell. I'm sure there's plenty of fanatical hijinks you can do with sorcerer using some sort of meta magic to enhance the spell. I'm sure. Remove it from sorcerer, I think, to make it better. A lot of people, I will tell you, a lot of people are straight up saying that they're going to ban it. A lot of people are saying that they're going to transform it to a 2nd level or 3rd level spell. A lot of people are coming up with ways to try and fit it into their games or just simply remove it from their games entirely. I'm trying to think here. So, if you bump this spell up, Silvery Barbs, to a 3rd level spell, then 1, you're not going to see anybody use it at 5th level or 6th level because the spells that you have available there are way too powerful and you would not dare risk burning all your spell slots there. But I think what would happen is if you put it to a 3rd level spell slot, you would see the spell being used in tier 3 and 4 play, which maybe that's what people want. Maybe people want the spell to be only a tier, 3 or 4 level kind of spell. I've seen people complaining that the NPCs aren't fleshed out enough. What do you think? What I think is if they had dedicated more time to the NPCs, then it would have eaten up into the rest of it. So to give you a description on the NPCs at play here, they give you a whopping total of, for each NPC that you have these relationships with, and mind you, relationships, that could be just acquaintances or that could be theoretically more. depending on how how your players get up to. For each of the NPCs, you essentially get 2 paragraphs worth, so anywhere between, I think like anywhere between 8 to 12 sentences for each character. But then you also get their extracurriculars, as in what they're getting up to, their job, their bond boon, which is if you're friends with them, you get a certain benefit, and their bond bane, which is if you hang out with them, you get something negative. Like, I'm looking right here, and one of the characters has a really interesting one. Their bond boon is the esteem for Kataros in live-action role-playing circles extends to you. Guild members will share any information you wish to know about aberrations, monstrosities, and oozes. However, you are a pariah in the campus role-playing community. The worst monsters are named after you. I think it's pretty cute. We need to get you a new chair. Send NFA super chats, people. As a friendly reminder, I don't need the money, but I am poor, and all donations are totally appreciated, of course. Though I will say, I typically don't like people sending money my way for nothing. What I do like is people buying stuff that it'll be worthwhile, and that is why, as I pull this up here, I will be having my No Fun Alloved's Guide to Everything, which will be a nice little bevy of things for your games, which will new subclasses, new mechanics that cover the wide gambit of various things, whether that be DM mechanics, player mechanics, world mechanics, whatever. Random tables for you to roll on to, explore out your world. New feats, new spells, new magic items, new monsters, new adventure settings, new mini adventures, articles talking to you about what the game's all about, and a whole bunch of other fun things. That is something that I'll totally be selling to everybody. Okay. Here comes Frankie Flumps again. There goes Frankie Flumps there. That's actually pretty cute. You do YouTube for our entertainment. You don't do nothing, sweetheart. You're working right now, and you deserve to get paid for your work like anyone. I will argue that plenty of people do work that is not worth paying for. I would argue that. Mind you, that's a very niche thing based on the job and whatever, but I think there's some jobs that people do that are technically work but aren't worth paying for. No Fun Allowed merch. I need a new t-shirt. What? So I've thought about merch, as all YouTubers do, because I am technically a YouTuber, even though I've only got, the 5K subs or whatever. I technically could theoretically put up a merch store, but that being said, I don't have a solid foundation for my image. I do not have the go-to No Fun Allowed, emblem and logo. I don't have a saying yet. I don't have a call sign for the people that watch my channel. I don't have any of that yet. When I do get around to having those things, though, when I do have, the absolutely guaranteed No Fun Allowed, emblem and the No Fun Allowed, quotes and the No Fun Allowed, schemes and all that, I'll definitely work on some merch for sure. You are correct, but your work is worth paying for. Thank you. Thank you. Ha ha ha, well, we appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thank you. But it's the best 5K people on the internet. Heck yeah, they are. Anybody that subscribes to me is the best person ever. Absolutely. Frankie Flumps says No Fun Allowed. Frankie Flumps. Take a photo, man. There's more than one way to get an image on a shirt. So right now on my channel I have the No Fun Allowed little symbol there, but I don't know if that's going to be my guaranteed symbol for my channel. I don't know yet. It's funny because I think a lot of people, like, as soon as they start up their little YouTube there, they have their everything in store ready right there. But when I started up my YouTube channel, my emblem was literally just me holding up some books. that was my picture there. I was informed that I should have probably changed that, but whatever. Alrighty. What time is it? 3:54. Okay. I've been going for an hour and a half. I'll go for another like 15, 20 minutes. So if anybody has any burning questions or comments or complaints or feedback or anything, go ahead and tell me. I would love to hear it. That's something I really need. I really need feedback because the unfortunate thing is a lot of people are afraid to give feedback because they're afraid to hurt my feelings. But I need feedback in order to get better, because if I don't get any feedback, I'm just going to continue doing the same thing and I'm not going to improve. Don't ever change you, though. It's your no frills, let's talk about the module style that hooked me. I'll definitely keep that for sure. Absolutely. I think when it comes to covering the modules, you need to come in with the honesty of recognizing the piece. You need to come in with the honesty and recognize, like, hey, like, I like Rime of the Frost Maiden, but this part of the adventure sucks. I did that a lot with Rime of the Frost Maiden in particular, because there was a lot of bad sections in that one. But I think it's important to have something that's genuine about it. You get more interaction and information in than many YouTubers. True. Thanks for your Waterdeep videos. Really helped me out in my first campaign. No problem. Waterdeep Dragon Heist is that's a favorite of mine. I absolutely love it. I've both ran and played it numerous times. I think it's a pretty cute, fun, unique adventure, and I think it deserves more love. You have to hate Silvery Barb. Everything else is fine. I don't have to hate it. I don't have to. Everyone is free to hate it, though. I completely understand why people do not like the spell. I personally don't mind it. I understand why people don't like it, though. Honestly, show your face in your videos. You're handsome. I'll draw people in. It'll draw people in. I show my face in most of my videos. I haven't shown them in my shorts because I don't have the capabilities of doing that yet. I need to get a green screen. But when I do get a green screen, I'll probably have my face in the shorts. And thank you for calling me handsome. Something else that does suck as well is I currently do not have a good camera. I actually am working on a webcam, so it probably doesn't make my face as maybe the blurriness of the webcam makes me more handsome. Maybe if I actually get a good camera, maybe your eyes will be deceived, or maybe your eyes will actually be awoken to the reality. Will you be doing videos on running or fleshing out the Strixhaven adventures? Absolutely, I will. I will be getting to those relatively soon. Something to note is, when it comes to running all the videos I do, I only do those for things I've ran, and I am going to be running Strixhaven fairly soon. So once I get to running it, then I'll be pumping out the videos on it. Mind you, once again, mind you, running this adventure is going to be fairly simple. If you want to run it purely as written, it is a roller coaster style adventure. Your players don't have any input on the outcomes of what's going on. Basically, they're just showing up to have a good time. So what I'll be discussing in my videos is saying, hey, if you want to run it purely as written, then it's, no issue. Let me talk to you about ways we can make the experience a little bit better. Or if you want to add more of a, options here, let me tell you about some options we can add to give your players some options. Get a ring light to make your eyes pop. A ring light. I might have to do that. I know Steely's been trying to give me some advice on improving, but I'm both poor and lazy. I haven't gotten around to doing any of it. I like your content and how you present it. Maybe an anonymous survey on SurveyMonkey will help get feedback. I might have to do that. I might have to. VAR Tech. VAR Tech. Unfortunately, I don't know what that means. Your module reviews are really good. Thank you, Nick. A lot of cameras these days that YouTubers have a slight beauty filter that comes on at default, so a good camera would definitely make you more handsome. That is interesting. Are there a bunch of YouTubers that are straight up filtering up in here? Oh, goodness. I did not know that. That's making me question. I kind of want to look at a whole bunch of other YouTubers and see if they're if they got filter face on. But seriously, get a ring light and you'll thank me later. I'll definitely have to do that. Mind you, for those of you that don't know about my setup, I'm sitting on the ground in front of a couch because I don't have a monitor. I don't have a PC monitor. I have a TV that's on the opposite side of the room here. So I do not have the gamer setup. I don't have the lights. I don't have the the library thing going on behind me. I don't have the chair. That's a huge thing. Is I'm not sitting in a chair, people. I'm sitting on the ground. So I don't have a lot of things that all the cool gamers and YouTubers have. I do need to work on that, and maybe through the fine graces of the peoples, through me putting out all the content, and most important of all is selling my products. Maybe I'll be able to improve the quality of my living area. Some YouTubers use filters, absolutely. Lots of them do. Interesting. That makes me think, because when it comes to in being an actor, if you go to an interview, you put on makeup. That's just the traditional. That's the norm. I wonder how many YouTubers actually use makeup. Matt Colville uses an audio processor to enhance his voice. Hey everybody, Matt Colville here, and I can't talk that fast because I'm not trained to talk that fast. Matt Colville, what a stand-up citizen. Matt Colville is definitely someone that I'm emulating their magazine, that's for sure, because they came out with Arcadia, and my magazine is going to be a reflection of that for sure. Wow, fake gamer, you're telling me. Okay, I'm going to go eat dinner. Awesome stream, no fun. See you later, Sug. I assume you mean shug, as in sugar. I'm going to just make that assumption. Have a good night. Good night, Megan. Or Kitty, I guess. Alrighty, I'll go for another. I'll go for another 15 minutes. So, once again, anybody got any burning questions? As a friendly reiteration for those of you that are new stopping in, what is this book? Strixhaven is a adventure a setting, but a heavy emphasis on an adventure module. How are the player options? The player options are fine, fun, and fair, except for one spell, which everyone doesn't like. How is the adventure? The adventure is fine, fair, and fun if you are into rollercoaster style adventures where your players get no options. And how are the monsters and items? The monsters and items are a fun variety spread of unique things that can easily be moved to any other campaign setting. I think your voice town is really good. Also, your Matt Colville impression is excellent. Why, thank you. Thank you. Will you do another module series? If so, which one next? Yeah, so right now I am finishing up Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I believe the finishing for that's going to come within the next week or two. And then after that, I'll be working on some others. I don't know which one's going to be next. I might leave it up to a poll. I might throw a dart at a board. I might just blindly pick up a book and see which one I do. I'll figure it out fairly soon, but I'm gonna be figuring it out fairly soon. You strike me as someone who would be an excellent tutor, DM, consult. I would certainly, hopefully agree with you there. I don't like tooting my own horn, but I would certainly give you great feedback. I would certainly give you questions to ponder. I would certainly give you ideas to shape how you run your game. And mind you, my Patreon, where I'll be putting the No Funds Guide to Everything, that will have articles in it talking about running the game. And that will include things like questioning why are you running the game, and what is it that you're trying to strive for, and what are some things to ask your players, what are some things to ask yourself, a whole bunch of these things. So if you are looking for all of that, stay tuned, because I will be showing off a bit more of that. But to give you a quick little teaser of what I've got for the first article, for the first magazine, which will be coming out in January, that is covering villages, where basically a whole bunch of fun things about villages. And I've got subclasses, new rest variants, random tables, NPC morale, new feats, new spells, new magic items, new monsters, new adventure setting, a whole bunch of fun jazz. So check that out if you are interested. More on that coming very soon. Leant voice tone. Leant. Burning question, what is your favorite NHL team? The unfortunate fact of the matter is I am not a big sports fan. I grew up in an environment where my family was a bunch of sports fans, and thus I rebelled against them. But if I had to give a favorite sports team, it would have to be one that I live somewhat close to-ish, which would maybe be the Ducks. I am autistic, Asperger's, and although I can be very creative, I can struggle with actually structuring a session. I would pay for help with that. Well, check out my Patreon. I think I'm going to be redoing my Patreon fairly soon there, but I will have that as an option where I sit down one-on-one with you and consult with you on DMing and other fun things. Awesome. I'll check out your Patreon. Heck yeah. What is your favorite monster, whether it be flavor or how it fights? That would be the Beholder. And the reason why is, so the flavor of the Beholder is that it doesn't belong. When you look at every other monster in the book, let's take a look at Owlbear. Owlbear makes sense, because it makes sense that in a weird, wacky world of D&D, someone would splice an owl and a bear at some point. Because of course they would. You look at the dragon. The dragon makes sense because of the iconic, mythology behind dragons. But beholders have no place in the world. They are foreign, they are alien, they are weird, and I love them for that. Now, in regards of how they fight, that is wholly alien and unique in of itself, because it is a flying creature. So right then and there, it's unique to most creatures that your players are going to go up against, where they go toe-to-toe, on boots on the ground. Secondly, the Beholder can't kill what it's staring at. So then you get in this fun game of the Beholder stares at some people to negate, some things with its magic. But then, meanwhile, everything else outside of its eye ray, it's then shooting up. But then the Beholder can get a little bit tricksy and then just close its main eye and then just blast people straight up front, depending on the situation at hand. The Beholder fights so incredibly uniquely, and because it just doesn't fit in the world, it's what makes me love it that much more. So Beholder is, without a shadow of a doubt, my most favorite monster. NFA's Patreon is totally worth it. Thank you. As mentioned before, big things coming from my Patreon now that I've got the writing process going. Right now, basically, if you just show up to my Patreon for the low tier stuff, then you get some fine little fun art that I put out each week and some things I talk about each week. But I'll be coming out with, of course, the zine, and I'll be restructuring a whole bunch of other fun things too. So if you are interested in any of that, check that out. Alrighty. I'll go for another 10 minutes here. Another 10 minutes. Got to give my throat some time to breathe. I've streamed before, and I'm beginning to stream more often. And something I forgot is talking by yourself, essentially to yourself, because I'm not having a conversation here, is very strenuous on the voice, and I had totally forgotten that. I am a very good public speaker. I can speak, on end with no prompt about anything, and I can speak for a long time. But then I sit down and do these live streams, and then it's me talking to myself for 2 hours and change, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's ridiculous. But I am getting better at it, and I'm figuring out all the fun jazz because I want to stream more often, and I'll be and as a friendly reminder, for those of you that didn't check out yesterday's stream, one thing I'll be doing is I'll be doing public games in my Discord. So if you want, check out my Discord, link in the description. And if you join the Discord, I'll be doing some public games, and I'll be recording the public games, and then I'll be uploading those games to my channel. And what I'll be doing is I'll have a whole bunch of DM, basically commentary on the video. So basically, I'll be running the adventure, and then you'll see my thought process behind why I, roll something, or I run the encounter a certain way. Because I think that'll be a really fun way to get new people to figure out, like, okay, like why are they doing it this way, or why roll this instead of that kind of thing. Favorite magic item for low level parties. My favorite magic item for low level parties are things that are semi powerful but have a limited use. So, for example, that would be like a magical wand. Let's say this is a wand of magic missiles. But the wand of magic missiles only has 10 charges. And once you use them, it's dead forever. Not this whole it recharges the next day thing. Because when you have the unfortunate nature of all those items that say recharges the next day or whatever, is you get all these people that just absolutely just blow their load on one thing, and then they're like, okay, good to go. But when you give people a finite resource, then it really does come down to, okay, like, we're going to cherish this thing until we need it. And I like that. I like that give and take of, hey, we're in a hairy situation. Do we use this finite resource, yes or no? If we use it now, that could bite us later. But if we don't use it now, that means we could get in trouble right now. I really like that. I love the randomness of running a beholder where you really don't know exactly what it is going to do each round, but can still plan and use tactics. Absolutely. And that's something I love too, is, the stock beholder has 10 different magical rays that's shooting out. And that's a ton of fun. But guess what? If you look at Volo's Guide to Monsters, there's actually a nice little table there on giving you other eye rays. And I know for a fact I'll be coming out with my own beholders that have their own different eye rays. So it doesn't have to just be the same beholder fight. It doesn't have to be the same beholder fight every single time. You can easily swap out you can say, okay, instead of a petrification ray, it is going to be a, maybe, I'm trying to think of the top of the head. Maybe it's some sort of like slick ray where it's like all of a sudden the person becomes slippery and they drop everything, and whenever they move in any direction, they have to make a dex save or trip. You can do a whole bunch of fun things like that. Vasf Tech. I assume that those are bots. I'm gonna go on a wild guess and just assume those are bots. You could try having people call in on Discord and have live chat on stream. I know for a fact I'll be doing those for sure, but for the this video in particular, I wanted to just do covering the book. But I know that in the future I'll be having discussions on live streams and all that. I love magic items like the flask of coffee from Strixhaven that just makes the world more magical. Absolutely. Something to consider is, what is the magical level of your games? Once again, I'll be covering articles on this on No Fun's Guide to Everything. But basically, per 5th edition, it is an entirely different magical world that you live in compared to older editions, like let's say 1st edition. If I was to look at 1st edition, I would tell you that is low fantasy, because there is less magic in the world because there is less access to it because it's not as prevalent in the world. But then all of a sudden you flash forward to 5th edition and then boom, there's magic every which way. Everybody's got magic. You've got cantrips, you've got unlimited magic. You've got all these magical items, you got to do all these various things. So all of a sudden 5th edition is high fantasy. The question is though is how high fantasy do you want to go? Do you want to go gonzo high fantasy where players are tripping over magical items left, right, and center? Or do you want a grounded fantasy where magic exists, but it's not as, readily available? It's always something to think about. How does magic shape your world and shape your games? Coffee makes all worlds more magical. Fun fact, I do not drink coffee. I have drinking exactly 0 cups of coffee in my entire life. I've had sips just purely, to taste, just dipping my tongue in essentially. And every single time I've been rebuked essentially. So I do not drink coffee. I am very thankful of that because I see so many people that are coffee fiends. They kind of wake up and they look around. They're like, I need my morning coffee. And I'm like, nah, I don't need morning coffee. I just wake up and I roll out of bed and I'm good to go. All right, I'm going to give this another 5 more minutes. So if you got any burning questions, comments, concerns, complaints, anything and everything, go ahead and tell me. Go ahead. As a friendly reminder, if you plan on running Strixhaven, then join the Discord link in the description down below. I'm actually the admin, funnily enough, of the Strixhaven module Discord. So check that out. I'll be doing an event in there fairly soon. And get yourself a roll and do all that fun jazz. And if you want to, at me with any burning questions, join my Discord. And I'll be running some public games that you can join in. So check out that and do all that fun stuff. Got big things planned for the future. Big things. Big things took time, but I'm getting there. It took me a lot of writing. It took me a lot of figuring some stuff out behind the scenes, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. And I can't wait to show off my hard work and endeavors to all of you. So if not coffee, what is your drug of choice? Currently, right now, I don't have a drug of choice, thankfully. My drug of choice is getting high off of life. I wake up in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream out the top of my lungs, what is going on, people? I haven't gotten my book yet. Should arrive later tonight, but how much MTG influence is present in the book? Thankfully, very little. And why I say thankfully is because magic is a very polarizing thing for some people. Some people really don't like trying to step into a world that they know nothing about. Thankfully, Strixhaven is just so ambiguous in that sense that you can easily run this for the Forgotten Realms. No issue at all. But that being said, the magic influence is there in that, of course, there is these dragons that created Strixhaven, and there is the 5 schools, and the 5 schools have their own respective colors. So that does make sense. But I'm here to tell you that if you are not running for Magic the Gathering nerds, then you can easily just, pretty much glance over it, and it's no big issue at all. No drugs allowed. No drugs allowed. Am I going to have to start wearing like a Dare shirt? I'm going to be running a Dare campaign here. Alrighty, 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes to get anything in that chat before I wrap up the stream. So 2 minutes. 2 minutes to get anything and everything you want. I'm here to deliver. I'm here to provide. I am who I am. Oh, man. One minute. Use it or lose it. Sounds like it'd be fun to run in Kryn. The Tower of High Sorcery reformed its school after Razalin's assault on Tacitus. Yeah. Absolutely. You know, that's the great thing about this is, like, you know, I think a lot of people, you know, are still fixated on Harry Potter because, you know, Magic School is fun. And I think that this is a great little product to figure out if you want to throw in a Magic School in your world. Just wanted to say thanks for your content. It helps so much. Thank you for enjoying my content. Thank you so much. Oh boy. Alrighty. So that is where we're gonna wrap things up. So, quick recap. Thanks, No Fun, nice stream. Thank you for enjoying. For the quick recap, for those of you that just joined in, what is this book? It's an adventure module setting for a magical school with a heavy emphasis on the adventure itself. How are the player options? The player options are fine, fair, and fun, except for one spell that has a lot of people up in arms. I do not blame them. How is the adventure? The adventure is fine and fun if your players are looking for a roller coaster style adventure where they get no options to affect the outcome. And think of it like an Adventures League adventure. How are the monsters and items? The items and monsters are a fun, unique flavor. They are very thematic, fitting, and also very easy to transport to another game, and are a ton of fun. If you're looking for a small bestiary, then this is a great little pick of high CR and low CR creatures. Strixhaven, I would recommend heavily to people that are looking to run a magical school adventure. I would readily recommend it to people that are looking for a splash of adventure that is full of fun little comic-y bits. It's not an adventure where you're going out to save the world against the evil lich. It's not an adventure where you're going up against some weird demigod or whatever. This adventure is down to earth, and it's kind of, you know, think Harry Potter's, you know, 1 through 4, where you're basically just at the school and you're just getting into weird shenanigans there. And this book is absolutely a great time, but I'm here to tell you it's not going to be for everybody, and that's perfectly fine. So stay tuned for other videos. I'll be making videos about this book, absolutely. And if you are looking for confirmation on if you should buy this book, maybe join the Discord. There's a link down below. And you can... oh, goodness. And you can talk to other DMs all about it. But that's going to do it for me for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you to my amazing patrons. You guys are absolutely incredible. Thank you so very much. And I cannot wait to see you all in the next one.